This all started innocently enough. I never imagined I'd find myself in this position, writing it out in full, the guilt pressing in like the weight of some terrible secret. I've never told anyone this before, not my wife, not my friends. It's the kind of thing you keep under lock and key, but here I am, needing to get it out. My name is Mark, not my real name. I'm 38 years old, married for 10 years. We have 2 kids, Lucy, 7, and Max, 5. On paper, we had it all. A beautiful house in the suburbs, stable jobs, dinners together, dated nights once a month. I was faithful, or so I thought. And then came Sophie. She turned it all upside down. I work in marketing at a mid-sized company. Late last year, I was assigned to manage a campaign and coordinate with a graphic designer team that included Sophie. She was in her early 30s, creative, energetic, funny in that dry way, and always ready with a pun or pop culture reference. From the moment we began working late nights together, sharing laughs over Slack, swapping jokes over coffee, I felt something shifting, but I dismissed it. Work chemistry, nothing more. One evening, after a particularly grueling deadline, she and I went out for drinks with a couple of colleagues. She was wearing that blouse I still can't forget, light, airy, pastel color, with just enough cleavage to notice. She laughed a lot, caught my jokes, leaned in as she told a story. At one point our knees brushed under the table, and I felt a shock, not of lust exactly, but of awareness. This could go somewhere if I let it. But I pulled back, rationalized it. I slammed a beer, paid the bill, insisted I drive us back. It ended there that night. But the next few weeks, the dynamic changed. We started texting after hours about trivial things, logo choices, font families. Work filters can only do so much. I noticed the pings at 9 p.m. about kerning, color palettes. Sometimes she'd start with design notes and end with a flirty emoji. I froze. I knew I should stop answering, but I didn't. There was excitement in it, the thrill of the forbiddance. One night, I told my wife it'd be finishing up late. I was actually at a bar with Sophie, scribbling on napkins, planning collateral for the campaign and something else. After 2 more drinks, we found ourselves close, our shoulders brushing, our conversation dropping from fonts to personal lives, our hopes, our lonelinesses. The estrangement we both felt, she pragmatic and lonely in her apartment, me drained by routine, by parenting, by chasing deals. We confided. I reached across the small table. She looked at me, eyes unsure. My heart pounded. I knew marrying this woman would wreck everything. But inside me something collapsed. I kissed her. It was soft, awkward, electric. She kissed me back, and that moment split my life in 2. I left the bar in a daze. On the drive home I felt nauseous. I phoned my wife and lied. Everything's okay. I'll be there soon. My heart beat like a drum. At home, I slipped into bed beside her, smelled her hair, pressed my cheek to it. I didn't tell her what happened. Instead, I pretended it'd been in the office. I lay awake, replaying the kiss, replaying everything. I felt filthy, yet alive. That kiss led to more. Over the next month, we met 3 more times, rare opportunities in unused conference rooms, after hours, on quiet Saturday mornings, in empty coffee shops, after work drinks. We talked, we touched, we crossed lines I never thought I would cross. Every time I left, guilt washed over me, a tidal wave. I'd drive home, show her, hug my wife and tell her I missed her, kissed her. She always smelled familiar and safe. I continued to pretend. At the same time, I started noticing cracks in my marriage, the small resentments, the exhaustion in my wife's eyes, her complaints. You never help in the evenings. I haven't slept well in months. Do you even listen? We drifted. I cared. I loved her, but I also felt unseen. I thought I was looking for recognition, excitement, connection I didn't know how to get at home anymore. I convinced myself I loved Sophie. I began fantasizing about her with a suffocating intensity, planning how I would tell my wife if only I could twist it out bluntly. But I couldn't. I was too afraid of destroying everything. Too ashamed? So I carried on the double life. The final straw came during a work dinner on New Year's Eve. We all went out. Hers was the best dress I'd ever seen her in. We danced a little, laughed, kissed a few glasses after the countdown. At midnight she turned to me and said softly in my ear, "I think I'm falling for you." My heart splintered. I didn't respond. I smiled in that brittle way of a man losing control. I walked her to her car, and when she leaned in for a goodbye kiss, I let it happen. But I didn't kiss back. It felt corrosive. It'd gone too far. I felt hollow afterwards, and deserted. I went home and finally told my wife everything. I drove in a blur. I burst in the door, saw her watching TV, and blurted, We have to talk. My voice cracked. She sat up. I told her I'd been unfaithful with a coworker. I told her it wasn't just emotional, it was physical. I told her how I'd been lonely, how I'd felt disconnected, how I let a kiss turn into months of betrayal. She looked at me, stunned and broken. She asked who, when, why, how many times. I counted them on my fingers, all lies and truth mixed. She cried. I sobbed. I looked at our kids' bedrooms and thought about their faces if they ever knew. We spent hours in silence. Later, she hugged me but pulled away. She said maybe we'd try counseling. Maybe we tried to fix it. She said she still loved me but didn't trust me. I felt a weight lift, maybe for her more than me. For weeks after, we went to therapy. I answered the therapist's questions as though in a dream. My wife talked. We cried. It was brutal. Meanwhile, I texted Sophie that I'd told everything, that I couldn't continue. She responded with grief, confusion, accusations. I was the one who initiated, so how could I cut it off? I replied, I ruined everything. She wrote, was it even love? I didn't answer. I blocked her after one final message. I'm sorry. I closed that chapter. Over the following months, therapy opened my eyes. I realized my drifting wasn't caused entirely by her or by her Sophie's charm. It was my complacency, my failure to nurture my marriage. It was my refusal to communicate when things grew quiet at home. It was my escape. We separated emotionally for months, sleeping at the edges of the same bed, going through motions. But over time, little things returned. Conversation about books, laughter at a show, weekend mornings when my wife would make pancakes and remind me what home felt like. That doesn't undo what I did. Trust was shattered. She's cautious, distant still. I returned to work eventually. The campaign ended. Sophie left the company her last day quietly. I didn't attend. I left the city to clear my head. I took a leave. When I came back, she was gone. The notes we'd passed were erased from my inbox. I don't know where she went. I imagine rebuilding her life, someone else's partner. I don't want to know. Every holiday now is tinged. Christmas lights feel hollow. Every time I hug my kids, I panic, will they someday piece it together? They sense tension. I pretend I don't notice. I still wear my wedding ring every day, but glancing at it now feels like both a promise and a curse. I'm not looking for absolution. I don't deserve it. I'm terrified of what the future holds. My marriage might survive. It might not. Therapy continues. My wife agreed, but slowly. She's allowed herself to feel anger, grief, disappointment. I'm learning to listen, to show up, to rebuild every beam, every plank of trust. She hasn't forgiven me yet. Maybe she will one day. Maybe she won't. What haunts me nightly isn't the act itself, but the gradual unraveling, the small lies, the secret texts, the rationalization that turned a moment into months, the betrayal of promises made at the altar, and the way I looked into my wife's eyes afterward, knowing it broken her. I don't expect applause for ending the affair. I'm not the hero. I was the problem. I'm the one who let it happen. But at least I confessed. At least I'm here, facing the wreckage. And maybe someday, if she allows it, I can try to become the husband she believed I was. Until then, I wake every day aware that love isn't enough without accountability, communication, presence. You can still betray the thing you say you cherish most. A few months have passed since the confession. Funny how time doesn't heal anything on its own, it just dulls the volume of pain, makes things quieter. But the silence can be worse. I remember the way she looked at me the morning after I told her. Not angry, not devastated, just hollow. Like her body was there but her soul had stepped outside for air. I tried to make coffee like I usually did, but my hands were shaking. She sat at the kitchen table in her robe, staring at her cup like it held all the answers. She asked me one question. Why? And I had no answer. I tried, of course. I said things like, I felt unseen, or we'd grown distant. I told her I was lost, that I made a mistake, that I didn't plan for it to happen. But she saw through every word. She saw the truth that even I didn't want to admit. It wasn't just about being lonely or craving attention. It was about cowardice. About the fact that I didn't have the courage to face the uncomfortable truth of our marriage, so I found comfort in distraction. In someone who didn't know my flaws yet. Someone who thought every story I told was new. Who thought I was still interesting. With Sophie, I felt like the man I used to be. Before kids. Before mortgage payments. Before the routine dulled the edges of our life. But that man wasn't real anymore. He was just a memory I chased into a fantasy and dragged a real woman into, ruining multiple lives in the process. I started sleeping on the couch. It wasn't her rule. I just couldn't bring myself to sleep beside her anymore. She said it was my decision, that she didn't care where I slept, and that hurt more than if she had screamed. The couch became my home. At first it felt like penance, then it became normal. I kept a blanket folded at the edge. I learned which cushion supported my back best. I started waking up before the kids and slipping back upstairs just to help make breakfast like nothing had happened. But everything had. She didn't wear her wedding ring for a while. I noticed that before anything else. Subtle, but brutal. She said she needed space to think. I told her I understood. But the first time I saw her bare finger, I felt like someone punched me in the ribs. A symbol erased. Therapy was twice a week. The therapist Linda was calm, thoughtful, gentle. She never took sides. She made us answer questions we didn't want to hear. One time she asked my wife if she still loved me. My wife didn't answer. She stared at the carpet for a long time and said, "I don't know who he is." I felt my throat close. I wanted to defend myself, to say, "I'm still me." But I wasn't. I was a version of myself that had lied, betrayed, chosen selfishness again and again. I had to accept that. I tried to fix things the way men always do, practical, direct. I started doing more housework, picked up the kids from school more often, made dinner without being asked, left notes by the coffee machine in the morning. But you can't scrub betrayal out of the walls with good behavior. Love isn't a math equation. One act of honesty doesn't cancel out months of lies. There was one moment about 2 months after I confessed when she broke down. We were sitting in the garage because she didn't want the kids to hear. She cried hard, ugly crying, sobbing. She said, "Do you know what hurts the most? That you took something and gave it to someone else, something that was supposed to be mine." She wasn't talking about sex. She meant attention, trust, intimacy. That side smile I always gave when I flirted. The part of me that once lit up when she entered the room. The words I used to save for her, now texted to another woman at 11:47 p.m. That night I stayed in the garage after she went in. I sat on a lawn chair, listening to the heater hum. I thought about calling Sophie. I still had her number memorized, just to say sorry again, just to say something, but I didn't. That door was closed. And some doors, once you walk through them, you can never go back. Months passed. The seasons changed. Leaves fell. School started. Routine returned, oddly comforting, and something strange began to happen. She started letting me back, and not all at once, not with forgiveness, but with small mercies. She handed me the laundry without coldness. She asked if I wanted to go to the parent-teacher conference with her. She laughed once at something I said. A real laugh. I clung to these moments like a starving man. One night, she sat beside me on the couch, not touching, just sitting. She said, "I'm not ready to forgive you. I don't know if I ever will, but I don't want to hate you. And I think the kids still need their father." That broke me, because I didn't just cheat on her. I cheated on all of them. I risked everything we built. And for what? A few moments of ego validation and a fantasy. It's been almost a year now. We're still together technically. Some days it feels like progress. Others, like we're actors pretending in a play written by someone else. I try to be present. I try to be honest about everything, even small things now. I never want her to wonder again if I'm lying. As for Sophie, I heard she moved to Denver, started freelancing. Sometimes I see a design in a magazine and wonder if it's hers. I don't think about her with longing. I think about her with regret, not just for what we did, but for how I dragged her into a mess she didn't deserve. Was it love? No. It was escape. And escape always comes with a price. The part of the story no one tells you, the part after the affair, is the most brutal. It's not the explosion. It's the slow, quiet rebuilding. The doubt that never quite leaves. The scar that doesn't fully fade. The way she flinches sometimes when I touch her shoulder unexpectedly. The way her smile stops short of her eyes. People ask if we're okay now. I say yes, but okay has a different definition now. Will she ever trust me again? Maybe. Will I ever fully forgive myself? I'm not sure, but I wake up each morning and try again. Because that's all you can do when you've burned your own house down and are still living inside it. Try to rebuild, brick by brick, and pray that one day, shall believe it's safe to call it home again.